So let's actually talk about that for a second. How was that acid trip for you?
It was cool. It was so I definitely had, I mean, you were obviously a really great shaman for me.
Thank you.
So you set the right expectations, I think. So I definitely see for sure in retrospect that they're very similar and very different. LSD, you have a lot more control over the whole experience. So like once the egocentricity and the layers of self-concern have been lifted, you can kind of go wherever you want. You can think about whatever you want. You have like total control over it. Whereas with mushrooms, you're more on a journey. It's more full body, and LSD is more just in your head. Mushrooms is more full body, and it can go like really like dark and serious, and it can kind of come back. You don't really have much control over what comes up, and it's usually like the energy is it's more, I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but I would say like the energy of mushrooms is more feminine and healing, and LSD is more masculine and logical.
Okay. That's an interesting way to phrase it.
Yeah.
I've always said that mushrooms is more spiritual.
Definitely
and
that too.
empathetic. And I feel like you can almost like feel the pain of other people, or you can feel the love of other people, in the inverse of it. Whereas acid or LSD, whatever you want to call it, for me has always been, analytical, logical.
Yeah.
Like I can break down something to the fundamental level of, well, like this activity, let's say playing tennis. I could like break it down to the fundamentals of like, well, ultimately this is me taking my momentum of my body and shifting it, using this racket as my extension of myself, and driving that force through the ball. And it's really important for me to focus on where my feet are so that my arm is not the thing doing all the work, and it's using my core, and I could think about it on like all the way down to like the fucking strand of DNA, like it allows you to go completely infinitely in both directions.
Also, it seems more recreational to me.
Yeah. I mean, I
definitely take these compounds seriously. It just seemed a lot more like you have less of it. Like the therapy of psilocybin or magic mushrooms is like, I remember especially the first time I felt like I had gotten like 5 years of psychotherapy in like 6 hours. I just fucking cried it all out.
Oh yeah. The cathartic release is real. I've had that on acid.
Yeah.
But it comes more naturally on mushrooms to have that kind of cathartic release, to have that just like emotional engagement. Whereas I feel like acid gives you this ability to almost like analyze something from a totally different frame of mind, and you can think about it completely logically and almost emotionally detached from some of those like things that maybe were like
That's
energetic.
really interesting. I could definitely see that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you can also go the other way. I think you can be very empathetic too, and you can really place yourself in somebody else's shoes.
But like logically empathetic.
You can be
feeling the empathy, what other people are feeling.
And I mean, I think you can feel what other people are feeling on some level. Like, I don't want to like take that power away from LSD because I do think it has that. Yeah. But it's, to me, is like I can logically break down maybe why something didn't work right in a relationship, or why something might not have played out the way that it was supposed to between people or a situation or something. And I feel like I can break it down a little more objectively without being super emotionally attached to, whatever personal involvement I have in that situation. Yeah. So I feel like it gives you that same way that meditation gives you that critical distance from your mind. Yeah. I think acid gives you that too.
Yeah, I definitely had more of that feeling on LSD, because it's kind of like all of the egocentricities and like the layers of self-concern were dissolved completely. But it wasn't like, the only way I can describe it is you just have more control over it.
You do. Yeah. And you almost, to me, it's almost like, and I think the thing that I found with acid is like it helped me unlock my own mind. It helped me realize like how I can manipulate my mind and make it work for me, and what things were actively working against me based on previous patterns of thought or other, feedback loops that I might have found myself in. Yeah. And I feel like acid allows you to kind of like assess those feedback loops. And if they're beneficial to you, then then keep doing them. Yeah. But if they're not, then you can kind of be like, I can see the loop that I'm finding myself in. That's not good. And you don't have like any personal like, oh, I'm so stupid, or like, no, you're just like,
That's the benefit, dude, because you don't have that self-critical voice talking to you on either one.
On
and
either
then like
one,
hours and hours of meditation just like slowly chips away at that to where you start making enough progress to where you can kind of really get distance from it and control it. But I think that one of the major differences between meditation and psychedelics for me is like, meditation is you're kind of just viewing all of the contents of consciousness. You're basically just watching your mind and your everything happen, like, and then slowly you start getting more distance from it. You're seeing all of the contents as they are and building a different relationship with them. Whereas on psychedelics, it's like, and this is partially, or not partially, it's totally a good thing. All of the contents of consciousness get so radically altered that it almost like forces you to think differently. It forces you into that frame of mind.
You can't think back the way that you thought before because you're seeing something from a view that you can no longer unsee. Yeah. It literally forces you to see it like, oh, I was looking at it from this angle, but honestly, this other angle is totally valid and maybe is even more true than the angle that I was previously looking at.
And it definitely gets you out of like if you have like really rigid compulsive thinking about something, I mean, meditation will help, but psychedelics like literally force you out of that and force you to see it differently.
It really does.
Yeah.